Hey, welcome to Street Fight third show thing. Ugh, why'd I call it Street Fight? I'm not supposed to call these Street Fight. I fuck it up every time. Well, this is the third show. This is where I talk to people I like. And this week I have Connor Golden. Hi, Connor.
What's up, dude?
Second time. You're
Second
a
time.
second time guy these days.
Yeah.
That's great. I had to pick somebody that was fun to talk to because I'm leaving on Friday. And
is that when your tour starts?
yeah, well, it starts on Sunday.
Okay.
But we have to leave for some reason. Brett has decided that we leave Friday and drive to Kentucky and stay the night to pick the Trillbillies up instead of just like going down there, getting them, and then going to DC.
Okay.
So just added an extra day to the trip, I guess. We're new at the rock band kind of touring. You know,
Right.
It's usually just me and him. It's not usually me, him, and 8 other people.
Right.
So I guess there's a learning curve.
I think it's definitely better to give yourself a little extra time and have nothing to do than to like be crunching trying to get there on time.
Yeah, and I like Kentucky. I am not Dr. Vox, who just currently on Twitter said he drove around North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee and was not impressed.
Why? He was probably driving on the highway.
Yeah, did you see that? Did you happen to see that post?
I don't think so.
So it's crazy to me for him to say this because like just I'm a 38-year-old man or 38. I'm a 40-year-old man who's only been traveling since I was 38. You know what I mean? Like I probably left Ohio 12 times before I was 38 years old, and now I've been everywhere in the country now, and there's just not a place that isn't great to see. It's fucking awesome to get to see this.
There's
this whole thing.
Everywhere has like cool spots and shitty spots.
Yeah. I mean, me and Brett drove through Iowa, and I was like, I remember it was like, this is kind of boring, but then I said, isn't it interesting that it's like just one straight road? Like, they didn't do any twists or turns. They didn't have to move around anything. It is one straight road that runs straight through the middle of the state.
That's how when I was in high school, the summer between my junior and senior year, I still lived in Chicago, but my chemistry teacher owned a farm in Indiana, so I worked on his farm in the summer. And like driving through like getting off the highway and just driving through like farm country Indiana was so cool. Just straight road, open land. It was super sweet.
Yeah, this is what Dr. Vox said, and this will be old news by the time this airs, but it's just such a funny, weird thing for a guy to say. He said, I spent a lot of my vacation driving around rural areas through North Carolina, Kentucky, and Tennessee. My impression? Horrible land use, bland, ticky-tacky strip mall architecture, and economic decay. I feel compassion for those people, but I have zero time for romanticism about U.S. rural life.
That's I mean, romanticizing anything is gonna like nothing's gonna stand up to what you romanticize it as. But like even in like big cities like Chicago and New York and shit, like all the areas that used to be cool are like fucking condos and shit now. That sucks too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's weird that these like elite kind of coastal people or people that live in the, I guess we could say New York, Chicago, LA. You live in Chicago, New York, Chicago, LA, Austin, Atlanta, like those big places. I don't know what it is about those people that they think that's the pinnacle of beauty and wonder and culture. You know, like that nothing else could ever compare to those places.
It's especially insane considering like that shit, those cities are like constantly changing, like kind of for the worse, like especially architecture wise, like everything in Chicago is starting to look more and more the same. Even when I went to high school at Mount Carmel in the Woodlawn neighborhood, and a lot of like developers like bought these old, like run down, but historical, really cool looking buildings and like built condos that looked identical to fucking each other. And that's not cool.
Right. Me and my family just went to Milwaukee and like we were walking around and a couple years ago we went to Pittsburgh and
Pittsburgh's super cool.
I know, and you walk around these places and you're like, wow, this is really fucking cool, you know, that like they left these buildings up because Columbus, I believe, is maybe 203 years old. And
Okay.
there's not a building that's older than 40 years old here. Like in the city, they just knock them down and build a new one every time.
That sucks so bad. I was lucky to grow up, like the neighborhood I grew up in has a lot of old historic homes, because it was like it was like a kind of like one of the first Irish neighborhoods in Chicago. There's even an old ass law that's still in place, like in the neighborhood I grew up in, where the street Western, it's against the law to sell alcohol east of Western because they wanted to keep the Irish out of that part of the neighborhood. That's like how old the neighborhood is.
Oh.
And there's like my entire block growing up was like all these old historic homes that like legally now can't get teared down, which is cool.
That is actually mine. That is so funny because my neighborhood was half Irish, half Italian part of the city, and the school district lines are still drawn from when it was like that. And there are parts of it that were there are houses that are specifically zoned around because apparently an Italian person lived in them, where it was like this house isn't in the school district, but the house next door to it is in the school district.
That's so weird. Yeah, I think it's so funny, like, because I grew up probably, like, the house I lived in was maybe 6 blocks east of Western, and, like, I got a fake ID and everything when I was in high school, but I still had to walk, like, 6 blocks and then 6 blocks back to go get booze.
How'd you get a fake ID? What was the process?
I ordered it online.
Okay. Me and Brett actually went through a phase where we were going to have fake IDs made for us because we wanted to see how good you could get them. And
they're really good.
Yeah, because we had some teenager very early on in the call-in show. A teenager called in and started talking to us about their fake ID. And I never had one. My wife had one for a period of time because her sister looks kind of like her.
Okay.
And got a new license. So she had an ID with a picture that looked kind of like her, and she was able to get in to bars and shit like that with it, which I always thought was cool. I wish I had a brother that was older than me and looked kind of like me.
Mine was literally a picture of me. I ordered it online. It was basically, you could order it in like a group. You would get 2 copies of the ID. So it was me, 2 other friends. We each got 2 copies together, like sent together. I think they came from like China. But it was $100 for 2 copies of the ID. If you put whatever information you want on it, my name was Matthew Patrick Callahan. I was from 622 Highland Avenue in Burnham, Pennsylvania. 17009 was my zip code. And I looked it up, and there was like the place I was from was like directly between Philly and Pittsburgh. So I'd walk around wearing like a fake Flyers jersey and shit.
Going so far, like you didn't even have to go that far, really.
Oh no! And then it was what? So I lost one of the copies of it, and then the other one, someone did realize it was fake, and I wasn't even going to drink. I was 19 years old, and I was trying to do stand-up at an open mic at a bar, and they like checked my ID and took it and kicked me out.
Honestly, the saddest reason to get your fake ID taken away.
So bad.
Oh yeah, I was going to work, and because stand-up is essentially you're going to work. I have never I mean, like, it's weird that they caught you because the amount of scrutiny on those things, I guess it varies. I've been to places where they scan it, which I imagine that is just, you're not getting there, you know, you're not getting in with a fake ID.
Yeah.
But getting into places when you were underage was so fucking cool and so hard to do at times.
Yeah, the reason I got it was because I was going to college, and I didn't know like how hard it was going to be able to get shit in college. But there was still like, so on Western Avenue, the street like that delineates where you can sell alcohol. The east side of the street, it's just like storefronts or whatever, and then every other storefront on the west side of the street is a bar. So there was like multiple bars that I knew of where I was like, I don't even need a fake ID to get into this place.
I always wanted one. I always wanted one when I was younger because I wanted to go into bars. A lot of times they would just let you in though, as long as you looked I mean, like there was a bar in my neighborhood called Stars, and Starz, by the
Okay.
way, that's how they spelled it. It was very cool, and it was kind of a hill. What the neighborhood I grew up in was like a working class redneck neighborhood, so it was obviously like a redneck bar. But they had a cigarette machine in the front.
Okay.
And when we were kids, we would just, that was like our plan to get cigarettes, was to sneak into the bar, go to the cigarette machine and buy the cigarettes. And that, like, 5 minutes it took to, stuff get the guts up, stuff the quarters in the machine and get out, was like some of the most exciting times of my life.
Oh yeah, I bet. I remember the first time I got cigarettes. There was like a kind of just like a corner convenience store place, maybe 2 miles from my place. And my friends were going to get cigarettes. So I was in like 8th grade. I was like, okay, I'll come. And I went in, and the guy, like, he just didn't give a shit. He was, no matter what you got, if you were underage, it was $10 a pack, and then get out of the store.
Oh my God. I was just saying this I actually just had this conversation with, I don't remember. We were talking about getting booze. I was talking to my daughter about it when we were younger, and we would go to get booze at the store. And she was like, because she's going into high school.
Okay.
So parties are gonna start happening, and she's kind of worrying about it or whatever. I was like, yeah, it's not a big deal. She's like, how do they even get the alcohol? And it made me think back to how we pulled it off before we knew a 21-year-old that we could pay $10 to go get our alcohol.
Right.
And it was this store that was probably 5 miles from our house, and so you had to drive. Like, somebody had to drive to get us there, but they would sell us anything as long as we paid $2 more for it. And we're like 14 fucking years old going in there and buying 40s. We were always buying 40s of Old English and St. Ides because
Right.
kind of kids we were. But it's like, it's such a funny thing because and in my mind, I know that kids shouldn't drink or whatever, but they're gonna drink,
Right.
And somebody's got to be out there to usher the bad kids into their adulthood.
Right. Yeah, that's how I my friend. So when I was growing up, I was into like theater and stuff, and one of the theater kids, this kid named Joey Casasano, lived in a different neighborhood. His dad was a cop, but like because cops like are bad, they just like didn't give a shit. We could break laws at their place, so because the cop was there, it didn't matter. So he would have parties there all the time. He lived within walking distance of a place where if any of us went to go buy booze, it was a no-go. But if Joey went, because the guy knew Joey's dad was a cop, he would sell to Joey.
That is great. We knew we had I had a guy that was a really good friend of mine for a period that when he was 13, he had a beard. He was able to grow a full beard at 13. By the time this dude was 16, he looked like the Undertaker.
Okay.
Like, he looked old. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he looked like an older dude that was able to and he was able to just walk in and buy cigarettes when he was 16. So we always had that guy. But before that, like, it was kind of a trial and error thing. And I remember when I was 12 years old, me and all my friends are 12 or 13. We're all sitting in this house. We're trying to figure out how to get cigarettes. We're like, well, could we steal them from this person? Could we go over to this girl's house and steal cigarettes from her mom, or what are we going to do? And it's like, look, it came down to, we're going to have to buy them. We're going to have to like buy a pack of cigarettes. And everybody sat around the room and said, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go. And I was somehow elected the person to go. I don't even know why it was me. I was the biggest wimp of all of the people that we hung out. I was like, I weighed like 90 pounds and I looked really fucking young and I had like shaggy hair and shit and just dressed like a kid.
Right.
And I rode my bike up to this gas station. I walked in and I was like, hey, I need a pack of Marlboro Reds. And the guy fucking looked right across from me and was like, why? That's all he said. And I was like, I think in my mind I was so insulted, but now when I think about it, I'm like, he's got a point. I mean,
right.
You know,
I remember there were kids when I was in a senior in high school. There were other kids that didn't have fake IDs, and I remember their move was that when they got their class ring, they would turn it around so the like gem was on the inside and it looked like a wedding ring on top. So they'd go in, the guys would assume that they were married and therefore older than 21 years old.
Yeah. I knew a dude that got married when he was 17, and it helped him tremendously with a lot of things. Yeah. I should have just got married when I was that young. That would have got me into all the clubs and all the bars and stuff. I'm lucky that I'm not into that shit. Like I was actually sort of bummed. Well, when I turned 21, I think I went to clubs for like 2 months and was like, oof.
They fucking suck.
It's the worst. Actually 18 and up ones are the worst.
Oh yeah. I remember there was this place, Zero Gravity, was like in the suburbs of Chicago. That was a 16 and up club, which was like truly the grossest place I've ever been to in my life.
Right. There's one called Bullwinkle's here that is 18 and up.
Okay.
And the line is always from the door like 2 blocks. There's such a long line to it. It's right across the street from Ohio State University.
Okay.
And part of me, if I wasn't 40, I'm gonna have to hire somebody that's younger than me to go in there and see what's going on in there, because I used to pick people up from there for Lyft, and the guys would get in the car and be like, "This is the best fucking bar in this." Oh, I love it. But all the women were like, "This is the worst place I've ever been to."
Oh yeah, I bet. My grandparents live in Youngstown, so I'll see if I can get out to Columbus next time in Youngstown. I'll go pop in for you.
Yeah, you pop into Bullwinkle's for me and
absolutely
see what's going on. Those college bars are terrible. Like I don't know if did you hang out in college bars when you were in school?
So I was only in school for 10 weeks before I dropped out, and it was because I was partying too much. I could not keep going to school. But no, I went to Knox College in Galesburg, Illinois. It's like a little liberal arts school in the middle of fucking nowhere. So like there wasn't really any bars. I mostly hung out at like frats.
Ugh.
Yeah,
I guess that's all there is to do, though.
Right.
Really, right?
I was also when I was a freshman and I was being recruited to Rush, one of the frats. So they'd invite me to other parties. They wanted me to be in their frat because I was extremely good at beer pong, and they would play beer pong against the other frats.
Don't you wish you could gamble on that though, and like make money?
That's what we have parties at my place now, and like even though we're like in our mid-20s, we still play beer pong, and people like bet on beer pong and bags and stuff.
See, I would do that though. I mean, gambling will at least make it more fun to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So one of my favorite Connor things in the world is that you go back and watch movies that were like completely, totally everybody in the whole world has seen because you're young.
Okay.
And I know you watched Austin Powers, and I know you've watched a lot of the Adam Sandler movies.
Yes.
What are some of the ones that you've enjoyed?
So I literally any Adam Sandler movie like before Grown Ups I think is great. Like on my podcast we just reviewed The Waterboy for the first time, or like not for the first time, it's the only time we're gonna do it. We reviewed The Waterboy, and I had probably watched in the past 6 months. I probably watched The Waterboy 6 times, and it's funny every time I watch it. I'm doing the same thing with TV shows. Like I'd never seen Gossip Girl before, and now I'm on season 5, and I fucking love it.
Right. I mean, I think it's crazy. I think when I see the stuff that you're doing, the interesting thing to me is like TV for the generation. When I was maybe 14 or 15, TV from the generation before me was fine, but I can't even watch I can't watch Friends now.
Friends sucks. Friends isn't funny.
I can't, but I can't watch The Office. Like if I sit and watch The Office, I'm like, oh God, this fucking sucks. Like, do you find that when you watch some of this older stuff, that is this stuff that you missed?
It's not. That's a lot of stuff that I saw when I was like 9 or 10. Like I definitely saw Waterboy. I saw Billy Madison. I had never seen Austin Powers, and I was shocked at how good Austin Powers is. It's like really, really funny.
That movie is actually so fucking funny. Like I remember like tears being in my eyes the first time I saw it. That's why I don't watch it now.
I think if you watched it now, you would still like it. It's really, really good.
I would hope, but you know what happened? So you know, when you have a kid, you kind of try to show them your stuff, you know. And one of the thing I've tried this twice now, Wayne's World. I tried to watch with my daughter, and the whole time I was watching it, I was like, I fucking hate this movie.
Wayne's World's weird because it's like kind of, it necessitates like being in the generation where it takes place, whereas Austin Powers is about the clash between two totally different generations, and seeing it from a third generation makes it even more fun, I think.
Okay, I can see that. I might have to try Austin Powers. I think there was another one. Oh, The Naked Gun. I tried to watch The Naked Gun with my daughter, and I think I kind of think you got to be 30 years old to understand those movies now.
I tried to watch The Naked Gun when I was maybe a senior in high school, and I didn't get it. But even when I was a senior in high school, I watched Airplane, and it's still to this day my favorite comedy of all time.
Oh, really? See, I can't stand that slapstick shit. Like,
really? Oh, I love it.
I can't have the throwing 100 jokes at the wall type of movie anymore. And when I was a kid, I thought it was great, but like I don't know what fucked me up to the point where I can't enjoy. I don't think I can enjoy normal comedies anymore.
That's interesting. I think for the most part, I agree with you with like the throwing 100, especially with like, I think almost all like parody movies fucking suck. And I think the only ones that do a really good job are Airplane, Dewey Cox, Walk Hard, and like the first two Scary movies.
Walk Hard was good.
Walk Hard. I saw that in theaters and I was like blown away at how funny it was.
I actually, strangely enough, I saw that. I got a free pass to that movie, the premiere of that movie in Columbus, the first showing they did for critics.
Okay.
And I thought it was gonna fucking suck. And they actually took our cell phones and put them in little bags, and we had to come back and get them after the movie and shit. And I haven't laughed that hard. And so far, probably haven't laughed. I laughed so hard, like I was out there evangelizing for that movie after it came out. I did the same thing for Superbad.
Right, Superbad. I watched Superbad a couple weeks ago, and it holds up super, super well.
It's funny. It's funny. I actually just saw Booksmart, the kind of new version of that.
It's like Girls Superbad, right?
Yeah, not as good though. And it's not because it's girls. It's because the archetypes that we're trying to do was like resistance, liberal, sort of.
That sounds like. I mean, part of the like what makes Superbad good is all this bad shit keeps happening to these like scumbag kids.
Yeah. I know. I think they have a hard. It's weird. I think there was a period in the 90s and 80s and even the 2000s where the main characters could just be bad people.
Yeah, I think people try to make all the. I mean, I don't want to use the word wrong, but like a lot of times it feels like writers trying to like insert a Mary Sue into the movie where it's like this. I'm the main character, and the main character is therefore a good person. Whereas like when Seth Rogen wrote Superbad, the reason Jonah Hill's character's named Seth is because it's based on Seth Rogen, and Seth Rogen can be like, no, I was like a scumbag, and it's funny when bad shit happens to me.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why you were talking about this with Leslie, why It's Always Sunny's funny, is because none of the characters are likable, good people.
Yeah. I always found that with Arrested Development when it had first come out was like, you know what? These guys are fucking assholes.
Yeah.
So like the bad stuff that happens to them happens because they're assholes. The only problem with that is like there's that movie, there's an HBO show called Succession now that everybody's super into, and it's kind of a darker, everybody's assholes, but it's a comedy, and they're kind of all cutting each other's throat, but it's like it's these rich people, and you know what, I could live the rest of my life without watching another TV show about a dysfunctional rich family.
That makes sense. Oh, I wanted to ask you because I didn't get to listen to it. How'd you enjoy Vanderpump Rules?
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, you haven't?
I can't. Is it on Hulu?
Yeah, it's on Hulu.
Because here's the idea for Vanderpump Rules for us is my kid. We want my kid to be there.
Okay.
So she can watch it with us, with both of us. We're also, we had been off for so long
Right.
that we came back and we did. We felt like we needed to do more Undercover Boss stuff, you know, because that's what we promise.
Okay.
You ever watch that show at all?
I watched it a little bit. It makes me mad. I don't like watching it.
If it doesn't really, I mean, it is a good way to get mad. Like by the end, you feel like you just watched a commercial.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I don't get super into like reality shows with the exception of like Vanderpump Rules. And I mean, now that I think about it, that's not true. I also you ever watch season 1 of Laguna Beach? That's like the best reality show ever made.
I didn't watch any of MTV. Laguna Beach and all that stuff for MTV started right when I realized I was too old for MTV. Like
okay.
I got fucked. There like comes a point in your life where there comes a point in your life where you say MTV fucking sucks now. I wish they would do what they did when I was young and watched MTV. And then that means you're too old for MTV at that point.
Okay, that makes sense.
I was actually having kind of that conversation with Brett. He was talking yesterday about how his daughter watches these YouTube shows and he just hates the people she's watching. He's like, I just hate these people. And my daughter's super into TikTok and she's into a lot of these YouTube celebrities and stuff like that. And he was asking me how I deal with it. And I was like, my assumption has always been that parents are pretty much always going to hate what their kid likes. Like kids have bad taste, Yeah,
that's how my youngest sister's 12 and she watches all these YouTubers and stuff. And even I took her for her birthday. I took her to a Billie Eilish concert and I didn't have a bad time, but I was like, I don't understand what these kids fucking like about this.
Was it? We're doing that in October. We're going to Austin City Limits so the kid can see Billie Eilish. What was the concert like? What was the experience like?
It was weird. It was it was a lot of parents with their kids, which was weird to go to at the Metro when Leftover Crack was playing the next night. But it was so. Do you like Lorde?
I only know the one song, the Royals song.
Okay.
I know a bunch of Billie Eilish though. I have listened to so much of her music.
Her song Bad Guy I do like. But the rest of her album, I don't know, it's this weird goth pop thing that I can't get into. I don't know. But all the parents and kids were super nice. She performs the hell out of her songs. So even as someone who at the time was not familiar with her music and didn't particularly like it, it was still fun to go to.
Yeah. Do you think you're a fan?
I'm a fan of Bad Guy, but I wouldn't call myself a fan of Billie Eilish.
I think she's cool. I don't think I even have. She's one of the ones where it's like, yeah, I don't really have a problem that my kid likes this. At least it's kind of interesting. It's not like regular.
It's not like being into Logan Paul.
Yes, it's also not being. I didn't want. What my worst fear was my daughter getting into Pink Floyd or the Cars or classic rock.
Yeah, that would. I'm trying to think. So when my sister was really little, I used to play music videos for her. When she was a baby, I would watch her all the time, and I would play. I wasn't even into Slipknot, but she really liked this one Slipknot video. It would make her stop crying, so I play Slipknot videos for her all the time.
What were you into though? What were you into as a teen?
To this day, my favorite band is The Killers. But I like a lot of mostly indie rock, hip hop, and mostly indie rock and hip hop.
I gotta say, I think you're the last. You're probably one of the younger people that does this show with me with any regularity. 2 times, and it's interesting to me that you like music with guitars because my daughter, nothing with a guitar. Guitars are out, so you must be the last sort of generation of people that got into guitars, or you're just into old music.
I think it is. I like at the tail end of that generation, because I remember like the age that you kind of start getting into music for me was like between 4th and 6th grade. And that's when like Hot Fuss by the Killers came out, which had Mr. Brightside, Somebody Told Me, Smile Like You Mean It. And then like that's also when I started watching MTV. So I remember like the first 2 music videos I ever watched on MTV were When You Were Young by the Killers and Make Damn Sure by Taking Back Sunday. I was like, this shit is so cool. And then like the first album I bought with my own money was Icky Thump, the White Stripes' final album.
Oh, that's a good album though.
Yeah, it's a super good album.
But what's interesting, I think the thing that gets me now is like my daughter doesn't understand heavy metal at all, which I think is the weirdest thing in the world. There's nobody in her school, nobody in 8th grade or 7th grade. She talks to a lot of 7th graders, and there's nobody in those grades that listen to metal. There's nobody in school that's into metal, and she doesn't have any kind of an idea why anybody would ever listen to heavy metal music.
That's interesting. Now that I think about it, I think even when I was in high school, there was like one kid who was like really was into Pantera, but other than that, like it was all, you know, indie and alternative rock or hip hop.
Yeah, metal is almost I think metal is dated, and almost like the entire audience is 30 and up, you know, people, because I don't think anybody really listens. I don't think young people listen to metal at all. I do think it's going to come back around.
Yeah,
because everything does.
I listen to a little bit of it because I'm friends with Dog Boner, Mike Hale, and he'll like occasionally send me a song. And then I was listening to Brandon Wardell's podcast, and he had on the lead singer of the band Power Trip, which is a newer metal band. And so I was like, oh, this guy's cool, I'll listen to him. And I ended up liking it, but I don't know what I just kind of had to like stumble upon like one metal band that I get into, but I can't, like, metal as a genre isn't even a thing for people my age.
Yeah, I think it's been gone since like, I think new metal killed it is what happened.
I think you're right.
Well, I think there was a weird period, like new metal did kind of kill it, but I think another thing that killed it was stuff like Queens of the Stone Age, which was like heavy but cool.
Yeah, I love Queens of the Stone Age. I think, which is weird because Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age was, I think, the drummer in Caius, that stoner metal band. Yeah,
and Queens of the Stone Age were just like they're almost metal. I wouldn't call them metal, but I would say that they're loud and they do heavy guitars, but they do cool music where it's like so much easier. Heavy metal is very hard to look cool and listen to too.
Right.
I think, you know, the headbanging thing.
Right. I think you're right. Queens of the Stone Age does, despite not being an indie band, kind of has like the same swagger as the Strokes or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I grew up into like new metal and stuff, and I because I'm seeing everything that was popular when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing that all become popular again. Like the stuff that my kid buys, the shoes, the clothes, the stuff that she covets and wants is almost identical to the stuff that I was very into.
Okay.
Like I'm talking even styles of shoes. Like there's this like pair of Reeboks that is like really that like people are really into now that I bought when I was in fucking 8th or 9th grade, that now that she's like, oh, I would love to have this pair of shoes, and it's like a carbon exact copy of the shoes, just a re-release. And what I think is going to end up happening is a lot of these young people like Billie Eilish and stuff like that, like they're going to be the ones that bring metal back. Like there's going to be a revival of metal.
I wouldn't be surprised. I do think it kind of happens in like 20 to 25 year cycles, where after 25 years, like the cool retro stuff from like even now, like stuff from the 90s was cool. That was cool now, and it was also cool in the 70s. I think that's probably going to happen, especially coming up with like, it'll be like 25 years or whatever until, I think these kids. It won't. I don't think it'll be quite the same thing as metal, but it'll be like darker, heavy music with probably like pop vocals, which I think would sound cool.
Yeah, and I just want the attitude back in a way. Like part of me just wants the like there's not an aggression at all in most of this music and like Billie Eilish and stuff. Even in rap, a lot of times the rap that kids like isn't all that aggressive. Really,
No, it's weird. A lot of the stuff is like very. It's which seems weird for the times. It's like very positive.
Yeah, where did that? I think the thing you want to ask is like, where did those bad feelings go? Like, where did the feelings that I had when I was a kid go? Are they just going on social media? Are they just something that you're sitting in a room and pouting about? You know,
it might even be. I think it has to do with social media. People have like an ironic distance from like bad feelings because it's not cool to be sad. And it's not cool. The last thing you want to do online is get mad. So it could very well could be like, just, I'm not going to express those feelings. Everything's chill.
It's so I mean, if you were to say that, I was sort of like that in school, right? Like, and I didn't go to school and I never got like really mad at school. I wouldn't be sad in front of people. I kind of held in my emotions, but everybody fucking knew that like once or twice a month I was going to go to a heavy metal concert and fucking scream until I have tears in my eyes and run around in a mosh pit and bang into each other, you know?
Right.
Like, we all knew that we had the emotions, because I've been thinking a lot about like the kind of misplaced, like some of my teen angst. Okay. I thought a lot about recently because I was thinking about the album Nirvana Unplugged in New York, and it was this like really I was very into it for like a short period of time when I was a teenager, and I think when I listened to it, part of me thought that like if people knew that I listened to this, they would know I'm sensitive, and then girls would want to be my girlfriend.
That I don't think that's necessarily like uncommon, because I remember when I was in high school and I was in theater, I was doing plays, and there was a couple plays where like I had to cry on stage, and before I would go on stage to cry, I would sit backstage and I would listen to, I can't remember the fucking song. It was a Weezer song from their album Raditude, which is a very bad album, but it's a good song. But it was very much like performative of me, like being backstage and being like, oh, Connor's listening to music that makes him cry.
I was sad. I did. It's so embarrassing to kind of even think about this stuff. But I would go to parties sometimes when I was a teenager. We're talking 13, 14, 15, that time where you're just so fucking up in your shit, like you have a million zillion feelings and you're not supposed to show any of them ever.
Right.
I would, oh God, it's so weird. I would go to parties and I would like pout at the party so that then people would be like, what's wrong with you? And then I could be in a conversation with a person.
That's interesting. I didn't do that. I think it also might have been by the time when I was a freshman in high school, I started dating a girl that I dated all throughout high school, and we were very happy together. So like, I wasn't like mad at her, and then we go to parties together and we just like both get super fucked up and like have a super good time and talk to other people. Because I think we figured like, yeah, if somebody wants to talk to us, we could just like talk to each other.
Yeah, I was so strange. I mean, and I'm sure I'm not the only person, but I was just so afraid of women. I am having the most life affirming time being the parent of a teenage girl, because I'm seeing that like I was so fucking stupid when I was 14 years old. Like I just, you know, and it really helps break kind of a lot of the, it's like misogyny and misogynist ways of thinking and stuff. When you see like, I grew up thinking like fucking any girl can have any guy she wants. A girl can just go out and get a guy, but a guy can't just go out and get a girl. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that whole, like attitude that you like I had built up in my head, like I'm never gonna get a girlfriend because like girls are just mean and they're picky and they don't want a nice guy like me, where I like really wasn't a nice guy or anything.
Right.
And now I'm watching my kid like just be like, boys won't talk to me. You know, the only boys that want to talk to me are fucking idiots. You know.
Yeah, I think the misogynist thinking thing, I super lucked out because I like when I was in like 7th, 8th grade, I didn't really care about girls that much. And by the time I got to high school, I was like, I probably could have fallen into that trap. And then I started dating a girl who was like absolutely out of my league. And I was like, oh, cool, this rocks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of, the weird thing is because I had friends like you too, though. Like I had a buddy that had a girlfriend that was, they were together from the 8th grade to the 11th grade.
Okay.
Maybe 10th, you know, just like it's basically the equivalent of a 20-year marriage.
Right.
When you're in school, and man, when that thing fell apart, it was like everybody was on high alert.
Oh yeah,
around
it's
this
bad.
thing.
It's bad. I remember like when me and my girl, we started dating like March of 2009 and then broke up sometime in this. Well, we didn't even really break up. Like we broke up, but then when I went to college, she came out and visited me and shit. And then we stopped like talking probably like 5 years after we first started dating. And so and then it's like, well, we're just never going to speak to each other again.
I mean, I'm going to probe now. What was it like for the breakup? Like, what was that like? Just, I've only been through a couple because I've been with my wife since I was 19. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we've been together for 20 years. But like, what was the breakup like for you?
I mean, so at this point, towards the end, we had been like on and off for probably like a year and a half. So I think eventually we kind of just saw it coming. So it wasn't too hard. Like, I don't know. I'm pretty good at doing breakups in general. Like after her, I dropped out of college and I started working at a restaurant. I started dating a server at the restaurant. So I think I was 20 and I was dating like a 32-year-old single mother of 2. And even like that breakup was fine. After that, I dated like a 31-year-old that I met doing improv. That was fine. Every breakup's been pretty fun. I'm still friends with like all my exes except the first one.
It just doesn't fuck you up. Like it didn't like, because that was always my fear. I never broke up with any of my girlfriends in high school because the times, well, they broke up with me first of all. I guess it's cool. It is cool that you've been very lucky in that regard, because like I was the most insecure dude when I was young. That mm-hmm. Like I couldn't I had like 3 or 4 like girlfriends for a couple months through high school because I was just terrified of girls. And you know, the misogyny thing even comes into play in that like I was angry at them, mm-hmm. you know, and like this really weird, I had this like really weird anger that like women couldn't tell how sensitive and great of a guy I was.
Right.
You know, like, and I think there's so many dudes out there that have that. I think that's why there's so many lonely, like kind of incel. I think that's why that stuff exists, is because I don't know, like you
people,
tell them.
It's people. So a lot of the incel stuff I think has happened since the age of the internet, where people aren't like socialized properly as when they're young. So whereas you could get out of that because you weren't like online fucking 24/7 when you're in high school, like complaining about it, you just learn to deal with it and then you get better at it. Whereas now a lot of these people, it's all like people my age and younger than me, kind of, that grew up with the internet, and when they're, you know, bitching, they find a community of people that are also bitching about the same shit, and then they blame it on the thing that's not the problem.
That's true. You're exactly right. I mean, I've seen this happen at 40. You see a lot of dudes that or people, even couples, people that don't have any friends
Mhm.
and can't figure out why they don't have any friends and why the whole world hates them. It's that thing when you look at Facebook and you see people like don't have any real friends. Friends stab you in the back and shit like that. And it's like, have you ever considered at all the possibility that you're an asshole?
Yeah.
Which I think is that kind of self-reflection doesn't happen with almost, I mean, it's like kind of a miracle it happens with anybody that somebody can look at themselves and say, oh, you know, I have something to do with the bad spot that I'm in too, you know.
Right. I think it has to do with like when you don't have like real life interpersonal relationships, you don't have anyone that's going to tell you like, yeah, this is what you're causing your own problem right now.
Yeah, and you talk about the message board though, and you're totally right. You know, these guys are on Reddit, these guys are on message boards and things like that, and they're talking to other people that have the same problems that they have, and they're explaining to those people the things that they do, and those people are telling them, well, that's what I do, and it doesn't work for me either. So, and none of them ever consider maybe if they went to somebody outside of that social circle. I mean, if they went to like therapy
Right.
once or twice, somebody might be able to explain to them like, oh, you know, you're not like very nice.
Yeah.
Good person to be around.
And I think therapy, it works for a very specific type of person. I've gone to therapy. It doesn't work for me, but I do think like because I don't have like a social. I think therapy helps a lot with like, especially with people who like don't socialize properly. Like it gives them someone like a real life person to talk to, which is what they need instead of someone behind a screen to talk to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, making sure that you get out and talk to other people in person, or even like I even say that I think it's even fine. Like if you talk like the way me and you were talking over Hangouts, like if you're
Mhm.
if those guys even just talk to each other with voices and
Yeah,
understood each other.
you when even with just a voice, you recognize like the person behind it rather than like reading something or seeing an avatar or something like that.
Right. Yeah. And you know, people on Twitter is like a play. It's odd because I think Facebook, there is a lot of humanity on Facebook. Are you on Facebook?
I
think
am.
we're friends.
I don't use. I try not to use it other than like for groups and stuff.
But you don't think that there's like a real humanity over there in comparison to Twitter, where
Oh yeah, there
it's
absolutely is.
brands
The
like it's
fact that you have on Facebook, you have your face and name attached to your profile, gives you like everyone on Twitter, they're whoever they want to be. They have a very specific voice, and it's you're posting in one spot. It's not like you're here in this group, you're here in this group with these people. It's yeah, Twitter very much is like creating a personality for yourself. Where on Facebook, you are who you are.
yeah, Twitter to me.
Which maybe is why I don't like Facebook.
Well, you know what? I'm not comfortable over there either, though. With like the sincere, like I'll sincerely post something on Facebook like every 2 or 3 months, where it's like I really feel this way, and that like if I have like those overwhelming feelings of doom
Mhm.
that you get from the type of things that me and Brett cover on Street Fight, or just even like reading the news and stuff,
Right.
that I'm not going to do that on Twitter.
Oh, absolutely. Fucking. I remember even I went to LA back in March, and I stayed with Jack Allison, and I like my last night there. I like tweeted like thanking like all my friends in LA that were nice to me and shit, and like people were like making fun of me. I was like, I'm just fucking thanking my friends.
I know, and for me, it's like not even. I don't mind even the teasing and stuff like that, because that's something that's been ever present in my life, teasing. And I mean, you know, in the very early days of whatever community exists on Twitter, you know, a lot of times it would be me and Felix and Dan and Will and the juggler and stuff like that, all fucking busting each other's balls too. Like it's always been there. My time on Twitter has always had that kind of, hey, we're all fucking having fun, we're all we're all joking around, we can take shots at each other and it's fun and shit like that. Over on Facebook though, there is this like the other people there are so human, are
Right.
so like, when I look on there, I feel like I get to see the inside of somebody's brain, if that makes
Right.
any sense. I mean, have you ever gone up, and you should get the Facebook app and scroll up at the top where the stories are.
Okay, I do have a Facebook app. I've never clicked on someone's story. I gotta do
How
that.
old are you? How old are you, Connor?
25.
So you're 25 years old. Your peers are now becoming conservative, and they're all becoming like adults that are probably airing their dirty laundry on there, and that like are treating it like a diary. Facebook is treated in a way that Twitter is not. And when you're 25, 26, 27, like that, you're hitting that period of time where now they're solid adults, you know, if that makes sense. I think I've said this before, but like there was a whole long period of adulthood that from when I turned 18, and I couldn't tell you when it happened, but I just still felt like a kid, like that adults could yell at me and be mean to me.
Right.
I think it was until about 10 years ago, somebody asked me, a woman stopped me on my way out of a store and asked me how to put air in her tire at the machine. And I was like, well, look at me. Fucking adult now. But like, and when you start looking at that stuff, though, you start to see like people's healthcare issues and people's issues with their kids, and they're fighting with their husbands. And, you know, at 25 years old, a lot of times there's the people that you went to high school with that were like dating in their senior year, and they decided to get married as soon as they got out of school.
That's my one of my friends, this girl, I remember when I was in high school, this girl had a crush on me, and I was introduced to her friend group. I was dating my girlfriend in high school at the time. She had a crush on me, so I introduced her to one of my friends. They started dating. They just got married like 2 weeks ago. I was like, this is fucking wild. This is so weird.
Yeah, I wonder, you know, and then you wonder, because an acquaintance of mine knows somebody that just got married, right? 19 years old, just got out of high school, getting ready to go into college for like a 6-month program to learn how to run one of the fracking machines or something. It's not like real school. It's like a different kind of school.
Okay.
He got married, been with his girlfriend for 5 years. You know, most of that in high school, most of that living with their parents. But they were like, hey, we've been together for 5 years. We might as well get married. And they got divorced 2 weeks. They separated 2 weeks after the wedding.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, the idea of getting married straight out of high school is insane to me, because like that's why like the whole like Christian idea of like you're not supposed to like live with someone of the opposite gender unless you're married. The going from like seeing your significant other once in a while to now having a legally binding contract, and also you're living together constantly, is an insane leap to make. The idea that you wouldn't live together before getting married is crazy.
I know. I actually know a guy. I know a kid who was ultra Christian. I mean, he's a distant kind of relative, ultra Christian kid. Was not gonna have sex till he got married, which to me was like, ugh, big mistake there, buddy. And he was like, oh, I'm not. You know, we will not have sex until we're married. And they got married 2 or 3 weeks after they turned 18. And it was just like, you only got married so you could have sex.
Yeah.
Like, that is the only reason you got married.
That's so wild. I remember when I was, I think I was a sophomore in high school. I was still Catholic, like practicing Catholic at the time. And I was like on some like youth group retreat where we went to Kansas City for like 4 days. And we like heard all these talks from like cool Catholic ministers or whatever. And there was one talk by this couple, like a Christian Catholic couple, where one of them remained chaste until marriage, and one of them didn't, and then they got married, and the lady was the one who had sex before she got married. She's like, yeah, I wish I waited, blah, 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 blah. And I was texting my girlfriend, I was like, we should wait. And then like I got home, and like 2 days later, it was like, hey, I changed my mind. I don't want to wait. This sucks.
I never even for 1 second considered waiting. Like there was never a period of my life where I was like, I mean, I'll wait until I'm more mature and older. And like I say this kind of stuff to my kid all the time. Like, I don't, not about sex necessarily, because I kind of have that thing in my mind that like teenagers are going to have sex. I don't know how you would ever stop them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I watched a lot of parents try when I was a teenager, and it never worked out for them. But I often talk to her about like alcohol and drugs, and it's just like, hey, just wait until you're 18. Like it's not even that long, and try that. But the prohibition of that type of thing, I think, does something to people.
Yeah, it fucks you up. That's why I kind of think, as far as like alcohol goes, like the reason there's not like as many drunk driving accidents in Europe is because all these European countries, it's like normal to drink. So it's not like when you're like 16 or whatever, you're not going to a party and getting blackout drunk and driving home because you've just been drinking. So it's normal to do, and you know what your limit is.
But they teach you how to drink too.
Right.
That's something me and Brett talk a lot about. Like, man, they should just let us after DARE. Right, when the kids all finish DARE, they should let me and Brett come in and teach a class on how to actually do it right. Do this stuff right, and then there won't be as much of a problem. Because the real thing is, and this is the same thing with abstinence only education, teaching the way that they teach about drugs only makes you want to do drugs.
Oh yeah,
it's just. I guess there are certain types of kids, because I do know I have talked to. I know that I have talked to people that have kids that I've talked to people that have kids or that didn't do drugs when they were kids. Brett didn't do drugs when he was a kid because he was like a minor threat guy. He was like really into like hardcore music.
Oh, it's straight edge. Okay.
Yeah, so he didn't do drugs when he was a kid, but like where I grew up, like everybody did drugs.
Yeah.
Did you start young or older, or do you not do drugs?
No, I mostly, I'm like Irish Catholic, so I started drinking when I was like 12, 11 maybe. But yeah, I'm mostly drinking. I started smoking pot when I was in like 8th grade. I think I did cocaine for the first time when I was like a junior in high school, and then didn't do it again until like I was like 21. And then like, I've done like DMT and mushrooms. I like mushrooms and stuff, but like for us, where I grew up, it was mostly just like getting hammered drunk at a park.
Yeah. And that's so that's something that I've talked so much about to the wife about too. It's like, God, you'd rather them just try weed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's like there were nights where like this is like credit to weed. Like there were nights where like I'd be invited out to a party or something, and I would have just gotten high, and I'll be like, no, I think I'm gonna hang out at home and watch TV.
Yeah, but it is just one of those, like, the way that we teach about drugs and sex and stuff like that in school is like just the worst way to do it, because you're right. Like alcohol is so accessible. The first time I drank, I was 8.
Okay.
And there was margarita mix in my parents had this margarita mix, and it tasted good, and we never had any fucking pop or soda or whatever. We never had anything that was great. No juice. It was just like drink water or milk. So I tried this margarita mix because I just wanted something with some lime in it or some flavor.
Right.
And I just kind of kept taking little drinks of it until I started to feel weird. And I like feeling weird. Like I think I'm a person that's wired to like to feel weird. So like it just didn't, drugs were a thing that was like always going to happen with me. And I think there's probably a way to teach about drugs, there's probably a way to teach people who are wired like me about drugs.
Right. It's sort of the same thing with like when I was in high school, I went to an all boys Catholic school, and our entire discussion of sex was like, don't do it unless you're married. You can't use like protection or whatever. So I like didn't know shit about sex the first time I had it, and I ended up like not knowing how to fucking put on a condom, and the condom broke as soon as I went in, and I immediately came, and I was like, oh well, she's fucking pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I can even talk about like the people who drink wrong. You know what I'm like
Right.
as far as like or like I'm trying to think like our sex education was probably a little more, because I went to a public school, so they were like, y'all are gonna have sex. But I think everything should be taught. I really think everything should be taught, assuming that they're gonna do it.
Right. And talk about people who do it. I don't need a priest to give me sex ed.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, I think that's it's the Catholic school thing is wild because I mean, what can a priest teach you about sex other than try to freak you out? Where, by the way, like every time any of those teachers ever tried to freak me out about something, all it did was make me want to do it.
Yes, dude. So when I was in 8th grade, we were doing Dare, and we were like told this story about like, oh, this girl like got like Goldschlager vodka and drank too much of it and had a seizure and died. And like me and my friends were like, we gotta get Goldschlager vodka. We gotta see if it gives us a seizure.
I know. The acid thing, right? Where they say, "Oh,
the acid flashbacks."
Yeah, and you're like, "Great, okay." Well,
that's have you seen the Norm Macdonald bit about it?
Yes, yeah.
Where he likes to stretch his drug dollar.
Yeah. Well, and it also sounds so cool, like they made acid sound so cool. The name is acid. And really there are almost no negative effects to doing any of these things. It's
right.
Like a lot of the drugs they spent a lot of their time on, there weren't too many negative effects. They treat some of these
MDMA.
Yes, they treat something like MDMA or like or weed even. They treat it on the same level as fentanyl, which is also like not inherently dangerous. It's just,
and also nobody's like taking fentanyl like to get high. It's like that's mixed with something, or like you accidentally take it for the most part. I mean, because unless I don't know like anybody who's like going out looking specifically for fentanyl.
Well, let me tell you something. When I saw the movie Kill Bill Volume 2, I was sucking on a fentanyl lollipop.
Okay, but I'm talking about like shooting fentanyl or something like
right.
that.
Those were different days, though. Like that was like during the reason people are so like, because I got that from a guy who was going to a doctor for migraines, who was just prescribing them these ungodly amounts of opiates. Like he had a desk drawer full of them. He worked at the cable company. Every time somebody got hurt, he would call them and ask them what they got and see if he could buy some of it from them. This guy was like, I mean, he just had everything, but he had these lollipops. Fentanyl is, I mean, like that. The thing they do is that they make these things sound like they're inherently dangerous. Why would a pharmaceutical company? I mean, honestly, like what utility does poison would it have for a pharmaceutical company to invent poison that if it touches your skin, you die?
Right. Yeah. Especially the reactions like police have to like, I saw fentanyl and I had to get like a body wash or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Well, I've had that conversation with a dude that does a lot of like drug activism in Vancouver, where he like a lot of people say that shit is killing people. The cops being afraid to touch it because they're fucking suiting up before they treat people that are overdosing.
These cops need to go to like your guys there, the Brett and Brian Dare.
Well, I mean, cops don't know anything about drugs. If there's one group of people that knows nothing about like cops. I think politicians know about drugs, but they say what they have to say.
They do politicians speak.
Yeah, but I truly think cops have no idea. I don't think they know anything.
Cops don't have a fucking idea about anything that they're supposed to know about.
I know, and they'll tell you these wild. I mean, like the things they say in Dare, which my daughter went through Dare. She's 14. We've known that Dare hasn't worked for 2 decades now,
Right?
3 decades, and my daughter just went through Dare again. And the person that was supposed to teach her about drugs was the police. And I just like that's the last person that should be teaching. When Brett got pulled over for weed in Virginia, the cop was like, I can't believe you use this stuff and then hang out with your family.
That's the best time to use it, dude.
Well, yeah, what is the harm? It makes playing with kids fun.
Right.
Jesus Christ. All right, we're gonna wrap up, but I do need to talk to you about your podcast, EFIS.
Yeah.
I have been trying to find it, and there is another show. Do you know this, Connor?
Yeah, I'm trying to get us. I need people to rate and review us so we get ranked above that show. So we're the first show that comes up.
Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Tell them where to find you.
So we're on SoundCloud. If you go to my Twitter, my pinned tweet is always our most recent episode, and then we're on Apple Podcasts right now. We're just EFUS, EEPHUS. It's a sports comedy podcast. Basically, me and my friend Kevin, we talk about basketball. We're going to talk about football once football season comes up. We're having an episode that's going to come out in a couple of weeks where we reviewed Space Jam. We reviewed The Waterboy. We also review foods that I've never tried before. I had a bagel for the first time on the podcast.
This is a real bad idea. I'm going to tell you why this is a bad idea for you, Connor. I made the agreement that I would eat candy if I would eat anything that they mail to us, right?
That's a horrible idea.
It was stupid. It was so fucking stupid. So we've had tomato candy. This week we had honey candy, and it was very fucking delicious. We had patriotic energy drinks.
Okay.
They were very bad. But double salt black licorice is the worst thing I've ever tasted in my entire life.
That sounds crazy bad. I'm not going to eat anything anybody sends to me.
Yeah.
But we're going to do an episode. I've never had a Big Mac. I'm going to eat a Big Mac for the first time on a podcast soon.
God, what have you had? Like
I mostly like I eat a lot of Mexican food and Italian food.
Okay. Well, those are 2 very great kinds of food. How was the bagel? I've
been eating bagels nonstop since I had it. I eat one literally every day for breakfast when I get into work.
And Connor is also going to talk to me about wrestling, right? We're gonna do something about wrestling when I get out to Chicago for a thing I can't announce yet.
So all right, here's the thing about the thing you can't announce. You guys did announce it on an episode at one point.
Yeah, can I tell you something? We announce everything and then can't announce it. So yeah, I'll say it. We are going to be in Chicago with Struggle Session at the end of the month. But the reason I can't really announce it is because the poster's about to come out, and there's we're checking in to see if they feel like doing Detroit and Indianapolis with us too.
Oh, cool.
That's why we can't super announce it. But
gotcha, that makes sense.
We're the touring boys. We just do it. We get out there in a row. But yeah, we're going to be in Chicago so that we can do All Out. And I told Connor I would come in and talk wrestling with them.
Yeah, we're going to learn about wrestling from you guys. And I'm excited to go watch you guys with Struggle Session. That's going to be fun. Yeah,
you should have learned about wrestling already. I feel real bad that you didn't, but I think that once you watch wrestling.
So I've watched, we talked about it last time I was on the show. I've watched I mostly watch Cactus Jack. I just keep watching his shit.
Yeah. I mean, I can send you, you know what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to send you some crazy shit.
Okay.
And I'll send you Samoa Joe Necro Butcher. I sent this to Rob Wisman and Stephen Heck and they loved it. And I'll get you some Japanese. The thing about it is if you're a sports fan, then if people are I want to recommend wrestling to you that is presented like sports. You know what I mean?
The athleticism of it and stuff.
Yeah, or just ones that it looks something that looks like a sport, because I think a lot of times what happens is in America the main company is more of a soap opera, and it's got dead people and zombies and dumb shit in it, and it's like I don't even watch it. But like when people who like sports watch some of the Japanese stuff, and All Out will probably be good for this too. When they watch that, they usually tend to be like, "Oh fuck, I get it now." You know, this is like an athletic,
right?
It's athletic. It's really cool. It's acrobatic. These people are doing things that, you know, in all honesty, they shouldn't do, but that I admire them for doing. It's kind of like when you ate all those gummy bears.
Right.
Like I admire you for doing it, but there's no way I can do it. And so before we end this show, I'm going to do this, and I hope to pay this off. I want to have a donut eating contest with you.
Yes.
When I'm in Chicago.
Yes.
And I am going to try to pay this off. I'm going to figure out our time there. And if it has to happen while I'm performing, if it has to happen on stage, I don't care.
Okay.
But me and you, for the Street Fight listeners, at some point in this trip, during this trip, we will have a donut eating contest.
Absolutely. I'm so stoked, dude. Here's the thing. Much like how I consume Pod Save America every episode, I don't like donuts, and I think it's going to make me better at eating them.
No, I'm going to tell you that there's not an amount. I'm going to tell you something right now. There is not an amount of donuts that I can't eat. It's the same thing with ice cream sandwiches. There's not an amount of ice cream sandwiches that I can't eat. I can eat all. If there was 30 ice cream sandwiches in front of me, I could eat all 30 of them easily.
That's how I feel about hot dogs. I could eat so many fucking I can't. I don't think I'm Joey Chestnut. I don't think I could eat like 87 or whatever his record is. But I do think I could. If I had I just had to keep eating, I could probably get to like 30 or 35 hot dogs.
Yeah, because sometimes I think I really do, because we'll get like a dozen donuts and people are going to be like, stop doing this, you're killing yourself. But I'll eat the whole fucking thing. I'll eat 12 donuts because I love they're like my favorite dessert of all desserts is donuts. And it's like, it's been that way with ice cream sandwiches. It's like, it's just this weird thing in me. It's fatness mostly. But when it comes to snacks or pizza is another thing. Like I eat it till it's gone. No matter how much is there.
I'm like that with pizza too. I will order like a large pizza and be like, I'll save half of this for lunch tomorrow, and I'll finish 3 episodes of Gossip Girl and it'll be gone.
Yeah. Is it weed? You don't smoke? Do you smoke weed?
No, it's not. I don't get stoned before I eat it or anything. I rarely smoke, so it's literally just me like sitting on my couch with nothing to do. And I also I smoke cigarettes and shit, so I think it is like sort of an oral fixation. Like, oh, there's pizza there, I can put it in my mouth, and I just eat the whole thing.
I smoke weed, but I am too. I'm with you in that, like, I'm more rare about it now. I smoke a lot less weed than I used to, and I just like I can't help. I have to fucking eat. I have to eat all of it. Like if there's ice cream and it's like one of those small pints, I have to eat the whole entire small pint. Doritos, I will eat all of them.
We have Doritos at my office, and I've had to stop myself from going into the kitchen getting more because it's gonna make me fat as shit.
I know, that's the problem, dude. I was like a really skinny guy until probably like 2006 or something, until I was like 28. I started putting on weight. Was when I started putting on weight. If you saw pictures, I can send you pictures of me when I was younger where I was like so fucking thin, and then just like my eating habits were the same as they are now, but my body can't handle the same amount of food anymore.
That's how I would I remember when I was in high school, I played lacrosse and volleyball, so I was like, and I swam, so I had like a 6-pack, and I was eating like 3 bowls of pasta for dinner every night. But I was just burning off all these fucking calories. And then when I got dropped out of college, I was working in a restaurant. I was a food runner, so I was on my feet the entire day. And then I went to an office, and I kept eating the way I was, and I put on like 35 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. When my doctor told me I put on 80 pounds since I started seeing her.
Ooh.
it's been it's a relatively long time, but it was just like I put on 80 pounds. Like that seems impossible to do.
Yeah, that is wild. That's why I started I was looking at myself in the mirror at my old job, and I was like, I don't have like any good angles right now. I need to start going to the gym.
Well, we will have we're gonna have a donut eating contest. It's gonna be fucking. I would do gummy bears with you, but my mouth always feels so bad after I eat a bunch of those.
That was even with the diarrhea I was having with the sugar-free gummy bears, like that, it just felt like water coming out of my ass. But with the mouth thing, like I was eating the last two while I was on the toilet. I was like this feels like slime in my mouth. Like it doesn't feel like it's gonna go down.
Yeah, and it's like almost, it's not metallic, but I don't know, it feels like gross air in your mouth.
It's a weird, you kind of lose this because your taste buds and mouth get coated over with the gummy bear, so you don't really feel anything in your mouth anymore.
Yes, exactly.
You have the pressure, but you don't have the texture.
Because we stopped, we just went on a trip to Milwaukee over mine and Brett's little vacation there, and we went to the Albanese gummy bear store, which is between Ohio and Chicago. So every time I go to Chicago, I stop and get, because they're the best gummy bears.
Okay.
And I stop and get a bunch of those, and we ate them all before we even got to the fucking hotel. And my mouth just was miserable. I felt bad. I feel all bad when I do it. But like now that I have somebody that I feel, I like that you're going to challenge me with a food you don't like.
Yeah.
I'll switch it to pizza if we have to. If that would make you feel better, I'll switch it to pizza. But I've always wanted to have a donut eating contest.
Let's do donuts. You want to do donuts? Let's do donuts.
Let's do donuts. All right, Connor. Thanks for coming on the show. Tell people where to find you.
You can follow me on Twitter at CNNRGLDN. And then the podcast is called EEPHUS, EEPHUS. It's the second one, not the first one that comes up.
Yeah, don't listen to that bullshit first one. Listen to the second one, the new EEPHUS. You should call it the new EEPHUS.
I would, but I don't know how to design the logo different.
I know the feeling. I don't know. I just guessed it on somebody's podcast, and they're like, "How do you usually do this?" And I was like, "Well, I pay a guy that comes and does all that stuff." Like I'm a big time famous podcaster now. I don't have to do any of that stuff. Thanks for doing it, Connor. I will see you in Chicago.
All right, I'll see you, dude.